Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, boom, boom. We are back with another episode of Find Your Freedom. And we have a doctor in the building today. But before we get into her, all right, we have something absolutely free for you. It's easily downloadable. All you have to do is go to findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. That's right. Find Your Freedom, REI.com/freedom kit. Go get it. Not right now. After the episode, make sure you go get this. All right. So with that being said, first and foremost, I want to say once again, we have a doctor in the building. When you got a doctor in the building, you got to put some respect on their name. I'm just letting you know that. So for whoever you're talking to, they put in a ton of work to get to where they are, and you have to respect that. All right. So, but let me tell you and share just a little bit about her backstory before I bring her on board here. All right. She was born in Haiti, in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Right. You know, her family moved to the inner city of Miami where, you know, she locked in. And she got all A's and worked super hard to go get that doctor in front of her name, right? But that also left her with something. It left her with a whopping $500,000 in student loans. So, as she usually do, figured things out. She said, hey, I got to do something different. And real estate was just that. And right now she has 18 luxury short-term rentals that I have to say are extremely lucrative. And we're going to get all into all that, right? And I may add, you know, as that is a great part of her life, I'm sure, but the better part is that she's a wife raising two fantastic boys. She's also teaching people with her coaching program, and we're going to get into this. The one thing she is missing is her tea house, right? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but let's give a warm reception to Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh. How you doing, Rachel?
Oh my gosh, Lenny, Omid, I can't tell you how honored I am to be here with you today. Thank you for the effort that you put into this podcast to educate and inspire the community. If you're listening right now, share this with someone you know that is in the trenches, working hard too, and they're looking to find their freedom. So guys, I cannot thank you enough.
Boom, boom, boom. No, thank you. We appreciate you coming on. We know how busy you are, and we really do appreciate it. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, if you could, for the audience, just give a little background on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all, Lenny. So I started off in healthcare. I became really burnt out. You know, you ever strive for something, you work all these years, you get all this education, you're like, yes, I made it. Oh no, $500,000 in student loan debt. My husband and I, between the two of us, at one point, we were working 5 jobs. Okay. So let me tell you, that was not the dream that I had envisioned for myself. But when we started to, see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit, we realized, you know what? We're doing some good things with paying off this debt, but we recognized quickly that we don't have any savings and we don't have a game plan without punching a clock. And so that really accelerated our interest into real estate. So I came from total baby step, Dave Ramsey girl, and then went quickly into bigger pockets girl to identify what is it in real estate that I could do, because Warren Buffett said, I felt like he said it to me personally because it was like an attack when he said to me, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. I felt like I was living and breathing, working all of those hours and just being in the trenches. And so once we got into real estate, that really accelerated our ability to save and our ability to generate an income that wasn't reliant upon the hours that we were punching on a clock. And that's what changed the game for us. So started with 1 property and then 2, and fast forward through joint ventures and partnerships, we continue to grow and expand our portfolio. And so we're more so with the suburban properties. We have 6 midterm rentals and the rest are short-term rentals. And for the midterm rentals, we operate primarily in the insurance space for those who are displaced from their homes. And for the short-term rentals, it's usually vacation or mountain regions. And so as I was going through that journey, Lenny, I had people in the community ask, you know what, how do I get started with my first property? It was the same questions over and over again. And I'd be on these calls after work or, these WhatsApp chats or text messaging. And that's where the idea developed for me was, you know what, I can create a course for my fellow pharmacists and nurses and doctors at the hospital to help them get started with their first one. And it just really blew wide open, because what a lot of people may or may not know is that healthcare burnout is real. Over 65% of medical professionals are really struggling with burnout. And if they could cut back their hours by even 5 hours a week, that can start to curb that down a little bit, I believe. And having a rental property, just one or just two. I was never the 100 doors girl. I get door envy like everyone else. I'm like, ooh, they've got 100 doors.
Yep.
Right? Everyone wants 100 doors, but I recognized quickly, is that in alignment with what I already worked 5 jobs? Am I trying to work another 5 jobs, So getting in alignment and asking myself that same question over and over and over again, is this bringing me peace? Is this in alignment? That helped me to recognize quickly just 1 or 2 doors is good enough. And that's what we teach in our community.
So I mean, I think your story is, is really interesting because, you want to do all the right things. So all the right things is you get good grades, you take on the jobs, you build a portfolio. And then through that process, you're trying to kind of balance like inner peace and trying to figure out what is like the right balance. And I don't know if there's ever really a right balance because things are always kind of out of balance and you're trying to move them in the right direction. But maybe you can talk a little bit about like the burnout piece, because I think the burnout is very common, just all sorts of different fields, even outside of just like the medical profession. How do I hear that you kind of leveled up, like, so you did you killed it in your studying, then you killed it in your career, and then you started kind of leveling up into different tiers. So how do you balance making the time to do those things, like even starting from like step 1 of, hey, I'm killing in my career and now I want to kind of take that next leap? Like what do you suggest, or what are some like best practices so that way you're kind of maintaining your peace as you're kind of going through the motions?
Yeah, that's a great question, Omid. And that has been a struggle for me because I come from a really good work ethic type of background. And oftentimes I engage myself in things that I enjoy doing. And so when I'm in. I could be in the trenches for hours and hours. And then I realize, oh my gosh, it's dinner time. Where have I, you know what I mean? So you're in it. And so just drawing a line in the sand. And I learned that early on because I missed out on a lot of my kids' childhood with, working overtime and just trying to get this debt behind us. My husband too, we had a nanny and all of that. And so drawing that line in the sand and creating some of those non-negotiables, I wish I had done that early on. And we all can do that even today and say, you know what, this is my non-negotiable. This is the line in the sand. There are seasons, right, in our businesses and seasons in our life where it's like all hands on deck, but that doesn't have to be the reality day in and day out. And so say, for example, not missing out on orchestra is, my kid playing the cello is my line in the sand, then I'm going to miss out on a speaking gig because of it, or not missing out on sports or whatever it may be for you that you think is, is your core value, your family's core value. So if you have a partner, sit down with them and say, what is our core value? What is our, core values? And then that's the line in the sand, because those things are going to continue to come up and challenge you. And if you don't have that spelled out and written out ahead of time, it's like it's gone, right? It happens and it continues to happen. But if you know that's your core value, oh no, we don't do this, right? So self-care became a non-negotiable for me later on in life after I, you know, messed that up royally.
Let me jump in for a little bit because
Sure.
I think you're speaking some really good stuff here,
Okay.
and I really think that there's a lot of families and up and coming married couples and
Mhm.
maybe even some long establishing couples can learn something from about what I'm gonna ask you to expand on. All right.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, you mentioned non-negotiables
Yeah.
and core values, right? Like, truth be told, is I have a lot of friends, and non-negotiable core values is just not the topic of everybody conversations when they talk about their spouses, right? So,
Mhm.
like, if you had to, let's make a person up. Let's call him
Yeah.
Sean, and let's call the girl Wanda, right? We got Sean and Wanda here, married
Yeah.
couple, Sean and Wanda.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell them? How do they go about even having the conversation of non-negotiables and core values and make that a thing in their relationship?
I love that question, Lenny. Okay, so what I would ask Sean and Wanda, and actually what I would tell them first is you can't have a booming business with a banged up life, right? So if your personal life is all banged up, how do you expect to have an amazing business? And whether it's your W 2 or career, sometimes we do have those restrictions. We can't necessarily stray from I used to work 7 on and 7 off. So my 7 off days are the days that, my family knew that that's their time. Right. So I can't go in there and spend that whole time necessarily working on the side hustle that I'm trying to build. I'm going to have to, spread it out. Do I work on that at nights when the kids are in bed, or figuring out what that looks like is going to be important. So, with that being said, I think we don't want to sacrifice our personal life, especially if it's a healthy personal life. If it's not healthy, then we need some help to come in and interject, right? But if it's a healthy personal life, I mean, the statistics show that a healthy personal life really helps you in your business life as well. A healthy personal life is a whole business strategy. If it weren't for my husband who loves and adores me and supports me every step of the way, I wouldn't be able to thrive in my business ventures today, right? And so, if I want Jesse, my husband, to be happy with me, I understand that his love languages are quality time, and he has a few others, but quality time is one of the most important. And so, if I'm in the middle of a launch where I know it's going to take up every hour of my time, I let him know ahead of time, hey, babe, this is launch season. But afterwards, everything needs to shut down because now I have to fill his tank, because I know he absolutely loves, he adores me. He supports me every step of the way. He does everything, in his power to make sure that my love language is fulfilled as well. And so that's the give and take, understanding your spouse's or your partner's love language, understanding the impact that quality time has on the next generation, on your children. you know I wish we were that family that sat around the dinner table 7 days a week. We're not, right?
Mhm.
But is Wednesday night and Sunday at noon are non-negotiable? Figure out what that looks like for you. It doesn't have to be what
Mm.
everyone else is doing, but figure out what that looks like for you and identify those cues, where, someone is struggling, where you need to then back up and take inventory is what I would say. And so those are part of the core values. Core values are on Wednesday nights we all sit around and we eat dinner together and we do a check-in. On Sunday at noon we, whatever that may be,
I
those are
love that.
part of the non-negotiables. And self-care is a business strategy as well, right?
I
We
love that.
What are we making all this money for, so that we can't even walk on the we're traveling, but we can't even walk, we're in a walker because we let our health go, or we're in a wheelchair because we let our health go. So self-care is a business strategy as well.
Love
So,
it.
so I like that strategy. I think, yeah, this is something I've struggled with my wife, is just like ensuring that we're on the same page as far as, hey, I thought we talked about this.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is that there's ongoing conversation about it so that
Hmm.
we're always on the same page and making adjustments as we go along. And like you
Yeah.
said, it just kind of figuring out what works for the household and what makes sense. So let's kind of like move on. So you've done the, let's say you're working on the business, and
Yeah.
you get into like short-term rentals. You're helping others. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you even discover like short-term rentals, and then how did you kind of take that big leap of faith to say, hey, like I want to kind of go all in, or put more of a kind of my time into that specifically, versus like going all in your W-2?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I first started listening to Bigger Pockets, there were so many strategies that I was learning about, and that's the beauty of real estate, right? There's
Yep.
something for everyone. And so I went down that rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, I want this and I want to do this and I want to. So
Yeah.
the shiny object syndrome was high. It was like, it was coming in hot. And again, I had to realize what was truly in alignment for where I am in my current phase of life, right? And so I was enticed by the wholesaling, right? Because that was the first thing. Wholesale, you start with no dollars, and I was like, oh, this is great because I'm coming off of Dave Ramsey, I'm on a budget, right?
Yep.
Like, that was the natural transition. I start with no dollars. I don't have to hardly do anything. I'm gonna make all this. This sounds great, right? Do your due diligence, right? Do your homework. Right. And so quickly, I had to, again, I became really strategic as to with everything. It's, well, how much is this going to cost me in time? Because for me, it's time that's worth so much more than money. So how much
Yes.
time is this going to cost me? Because that's non-negotiable. It's non-refundable, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. So I quickly realized that wasn't it. Wholesaler was not it. I was better off leaning in, going deeper in my W-2, creating additional bonuses and revenue to then do something else. The next thing was, oh, fix and flip. I'm watching HGTV in 32 minutes. They just made $40,000 back. Yes, this is
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. I love it.
obviously
Whoa.
Yeah.
You like, hold up, Dave. Sorry.
That easy.
right. Right, that easy. Again, how much is this gonna? So I remember writing all this down, and I realized quickly that you are now the boss of all of these contractors, and you're chasing people down, and that didn't feel like a vibe for me. That did not feel like anything I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, because of our income, we're making a good amount of income. The tax, considerations, right? How efficient would I be in taxes if so that was something that was not a vibe either. So I went on and did research in all of the sectors, and that's the beauty of real estate: syndications, storage facilities, even like off the wall investing strategies in vehicles, ATM machines, all of that. And I landed on, what, this short-term rental, midterm rental arena is similar to long-term landlording,
Mm-hmm.
and that you own a property, but there is a hospitality component to it, a design component to it, which is something that I thoroughly enjoyed. And if it's done correctly, and I can partner with, say, a virtual assistant to help me support the communication side of things, it by far exceeded any of the other investment vehicles that were presenting themselves to me. I understood it. At the time, I was being sold NFTs and Bitcoins, those things. I was like, I still don't quite understand it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, like, okay, I could touch a house, I can see a house, they pay, they stay, they leave. And that, I was like, I understand,
Mm-hmm.
And so we launched our first one, and the rest is history, essentially. So that's how we started.
Boom. Oh man, that's lovely. And I love I was with Dave Ramsey, riding with him. We got to sit here and pay every bill off. We got to do the snowball effect,
Yes.
all that, right?
Yeah.
And
And it
then,
helped. It
no,
really helped.
Yeah, and I don't want to listen, Dave. If you hear our show, I like you, dude. Like I don't want to sit here.
Massive thank you,
Don't
Dave.
come show. We do. All of us have a piece of Dave in us. You understand? And you need it, right?
Yeah.
Like there got to be some type of a balance. But there is another avenue which you figured out on how to succeed in different ways in this world, and it just was against what a lot of Dave practices. I'm going to
Yep.
sit there and say, but you mentioned something, and I know you mentioned Warren Buffett earlier, and I'm gonna mention Warren Buffett too. You mentioned the EFTs and those things you didn't understand, and I really want people to really get this part because you said you understood the real estate in, and Warren
Yeah.
Buffett is very clear that you do not invest into anything that you do not understand. If you
Yeah.
don't understand how to make money in it, you do not invest in it.
Yeah.
So, for the listeners, that's just a tip that, Dr. Rachel's here. I don't want that to go over anybody's head. But sticking with these midterm rentals, I guess if you could, because there's a lot of people who probably don't even know what
Yeah.
midterm rentals are. So if you can just give a definition to it, as well as some of your success stories with it, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we actually stumbled upon this strategy. And so we had our properties listed on all the short term rental platforms. And when we say short term rentals, those are guests who are staying in our properties for 2 nights, 3 nights a week or so. And the platforms are things such as Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, for instance. And there are others out there. But we received an inquiry for a guest who wanted to stay for 30 days or more. And so anything that is greater than 28 days for a length of stay, according to the hospitality management gurus out there, that is considered a midterm rental or a medium term rental. And people need those types of stays for a variety of reasons. It could be they're coming to an area to train. It could be military, placement. It could be, right now we're in political cycles, political campaign staff that are coming to do their thing for a moment. It could be the film industry, that are coming to film a show, and then they're going back home. It could be travel nurses. That's the one that's the most popular, but I mentioned that last because quite everyone thinks of that one first.
Mhm.
But really, midterm rentals have been here long before travel nurses have been known for it. As a matter of fact, non medical travel is outpacing the demand for midterm rental need. And so we focus on midterm rental primarily, and we have two focuses. Number one is for those who are displaced from their homes due to a water pipe leak or a gas leak or any type of disaster. They can't stay in their homes; it's uninhabitable, and so they need to stay somewhere else. And say a hotel is not a good fit. They're traveling with someone who's elderly or they may have pets, and it's like 3 kids and mom and dad and grandpa, like larger families. We like to focus on 4 bedroom plus properties. And then so they can stay with us for 28 days while their home is being renovated. They tend to extend and they typically stay for around 4+ months.
Mm.
We've hosted even for 13 months. We had a family who was with us for fire damage. And so the insurance companies like your Allstate, State Farms, Progressive, they pay for those stays because if you have homeowners insurance, there's an allowance within that insurance policy for your midterm rental housing. So that is our area and that is who we focus on.
So I think midterm, medium term. I know everybody calls it maybe a little bit different,
Yeah.
but I know that's become a super popular topic. Just like somebody like you who was doing their research and like, I'm not going to do this, and then a lot of short-term rental operators. What happened was they're like, hey, I can do medium term rentals and spend a lot less time and make just as much money or close to the same
Yeah.
amount of money
Yeah.
with less effort. So let me jump into this. This sounds wonderful. So I
Yeah.
know there's like tiers to it. So first it's
Mhm.
maybe put it on the platform just to kind of get your 30-day stay or 60 or 90-day stay. And then it becomes then the contracts. Can you talk a little bit about the contracts? Because
Yeah.
I'm somebody. Let's say I'm Joe, and I listed my. We all have different names for our people. So let's say I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
And I know, what's up, Joe. And I've let's say I've listed my property. It's on Furnish Finder. It's it's on Airbnb, and I've had my first guest already through, and they've stayed 60 days. Now I'm trying to level up like you, and I want to get this insurance contract thing. What's the next steps? Like, what are like some recommended things that I should be doing to kind of be in a position where then I can kind of build relationships outside of just like the platforms?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I found, believe it or not, that relationships, this is definitely a relationships play. And so this is going to be in your area of expertise. Relationships and marketing are the two pillars of this strategy. And so the number one relationship I think that will be important is for you to have relationships with those in your community who are hosting in your community. You have no idea how many times I received an inquiry that I have to pass on to, a neighbor who also has a rental because I'm fully booked, you know? And so that is step one, is to create those relationships, because at the end of the day, you want to have a robust enough relationship with the agent that's reaching out to you that you don't just tell them, bummer, I'm fully booked, bye. No, you need to say yes. That's how we stay booked, is we say, oh sure, yeah, we got you. We may not have anything, right? We're going to look. The last time I said we got you, my kids were looking at me like, don't kick us out of our house again. Like, we're not saying no to these deals because these deals are so lucrative. Like you mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm talking about $9,000, $16,000 a month for 13 months. I mean, that's life-changing revenue. You know what I mean? So you don't say no, you say yes, and then you figure it out, right? We get paid for the number of problems that we're able to solve. You don't be a problem, be the problem solver, is what I say. So that first relationship, number one, is with others who have assets in that community. Why not create a little WhatsApp channel and be that like go-to person that the insurance is always ready? You say yes, and you can then share that lead with others. We swap leads all the time. I'm sure there's a way to monetize that for sure. And the second thing is, what was the second thing that I said? The marketing.
Marketing, there you go.
I got it.
I was paying attention too, I promise. Yeah.
Oh my god. And it's the marketing, and I don't want to make it sound like you need to go and hiring a marketing firm. Not at all. It's understanding the need of that guest. So whether you decide to go into this insurance realm or even travel nursing, what is their need? And how do I list my property? It doesn't matter which platform it's on, and we'll get tactical in a moment, but how do I list my property in a way that it's speaking to that exact guest avatar that I want to attract to the property? So if it's an insurance guest, it could be the same 4-bedroom home that's used for weddings or whatever. We're going to change that listing to reflect this is a place that you're going to find peace and healing and solace and quiet and, rejuvenation while you're transitioning and your home is being repaired. We want to speak to them. If it's the insurance that's looking, you want to have that language and also talk about what their needs are, which is flexibility for extensions, because we all know there's no renovation project that goes, and completes on time, on budget, or anything, right? So flexibility in extensions, bundle pricing, so when you start to speak that language, and I get this all the time because our properties are the most expensive in all our markets, but we have designed it in a way that we're able to meet a multitude of needs that a lot of hosts aren't willing to meet. And then we speak to their needs in such a clear and simple fashion. It doesn't have to be complex. If they say, oh man, I'm just looking for a flexible stay, or if they say, I'm just looking for, a pet friendly stay, or I'm just looking for something that's accessible, these are how we target the assets that we're looking to invest in. And then our marketing, or the words that we put in our listing, reflect those exact words that they have mentioned to us. And we keep it as simple as that. So those are the two ways from, a holistic perspective. But from a tactical perspective, we list on other platforms like ALE Solutions is one of the platforms that we list on. That's where the temporary housing agents are looking. And since our properties are a little bit larger, and we don't necessarily want to like bring it down to a bargain level or negotiate. We're not huge on Furnish Finder. Furnish Finder, if you're hearing me, don't come for me. But
We love you too, Furnish
we love
Finder.
you
Just to
too,
let you
Furnish
know, we love
Finder.
you, Furnish Finder. However,
Yes, there we go. There we go. But we list on corporate housing by owner. That's another platform. So Furnish Finder, corporate housing, those are paid platforms, but they do get visibility from the insurance companies.
interesting. And what you're doing is just super smart, I have to say. So we appreciate you sharing this. So you talked a little bit about the insurance.
Yeah.
And I guess, can you give two sides of the education? I guess one, us as homeowners, right? Like, what type of insurance should we have? Because I'm sure you probably can give us some suggestions there. And then two, just how do you actually make those relationships and make them stick when it comes to the and also, you mentioned agency. Are you speaking to the insurance company? Are you speaking to not appraisers, but who are the other people? Adjusters. Like,
Okay.
who are these people you're making relationships with?
Yeah. So those are some great questions. So because I'm not an attorney, from a liability perspective, I can just give a high level overview. So it depends on your hosting model, how you're host, because we know there are multiple ways to host in the short-term and midterm rental world. So we're landlord owners. We own property, and we furnish it, and then we rent it out. The alternative is you rent property, then you furnish it, and then rent it out, with the objective to make a profit on the spread from rent that you're paying to rent that you're charging. If you're helping and partnering with other landlords, that's a co-host property management model. And if you're, say, an investor and you're just completely a silent investor, hands off, you're just giving your 25,000, 50, 100,000, that's a passive investing. So those are the four ways that I know that you can get into this short-term midterm rental arena. And each of those ways require different type of liability insurance. The passive investing, probably not, but essentially you have a business, so you want to have those types of protections as well. So I would recommend speaking with a real estate attorney to know exactly what you need to have, because there's a variety of insurance. There's the property insurance to protect the asset. There's liability insurance to protect the people who are staying in the place if something were to happen. There's damage insurance to protect those darn sheets from Brooklyn that were over $100. Let me focus, Rachel. Where am I? What are we talking about? You just triggered me.
See,
sorry about that.
Let's reel you back in.
Listen, reel me back in. Oh my God.
Oh man, I wasn't prepared for that.
I wasn't either.
Oh, sure wasn't, man. But hold on, let me get myself back together. Right. So hold on. Listen, we all got those pain points where, look, we go, because sometimes, me hearing from me all the time, like I would go on a rant. I'm like, all right, Gilly, come on now, calm down, Lenny, come in. Here's a drink for you. So we get it. But you just was explaining the different types of insurance policies, yes, and what to look for in it, and that's where the red button came in with the making sure those linens get paid.
Oh my goodness.
But let's move on, because that's we stuck there. Let's move on. Let's move on to who are you making these relationships with? Are they the adjusters? Are they the agencies? The insurance companies themselves? Let's talk about that.
Okay. Yes. So we're refocusing. So there's power in staying in your lane, isn't there? Like there's power in going, a mile deep
Yeah.
instead of a mile wide. And so even the insurance companies, they stay in their lane. So you don't see Allstate owning real estate. Like there's not enough houses for their insured to go to that they could purchase and own and have in a portfolio. Not only is there not enough houses for them to do that, they're not even looking for that structure or that vibe. They're an insurance company, they're actuaries, they look at risk, they look at, that's their lane. So whenever there is a claim, they reach out to what is called a third party temporary housing agency. Okay. And then so they send that out to that third party temporary housing agency. And it's the agency's job to then look for housing because that's all they do. That's their lane to find temporary housing, whether the temporary housing is in a hotel, whether it's in an apartment complex, whether it's a single family home from a landlord, right? That is their job to know what's available when and to reach out to their database, which we're all a part of their database, so that they can find, hey, this property that you have listed here, is it still available? We have something. Okay, so that's their lane. So I would say that 45% of my contacts, those who reach out to me, 45% of them are these temporary housing agents that are third party, which is ALE Solutions is a third party temporary housing agent. But 65% of my contacts are the guests themselves. And once the guests reach out to me, then I say, hey, let me speak with your agent. So that's the part. Because here's the deal. You got to walk them out in this guest avatar's shoes. They just went through something. And if they're anything like me, we all grieve and we react differently. It could be something catastrophic like a fire. It could be something where, there has been massive loss. I mean, you lose your home. I mean, it's real. It's one of the most devastating times that you may meet someone in their lives. One of the scariest moments in their life that you have that opportunity to connect with them and serve them at this level. But despite that, or in light of that, they're able to then say to themselves, you know what? Their trust issues are like through the roof. I know even I grew up in the inner city. We grew up broke, but I was like a bougie broke. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Oh no, come on, let's bring that out. Bougie broke.
I was like a bougie broke. I'm broke, but I'm just like looking at, the Range Rovers. I'm at the $1 million house. I'm like, I don't know if I would have painted it that color. $7 in my bank account, and I'm critiquing.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like a bougie broke, like a brocade, right? Like I saw that, like a brocade. That's like a bougie broke. And so like, I feel that my avatar would be that person who's like, you know what? I just don't want them to put me anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so the insurance is looking for housing, and that guest is looking for housing as well. And so the dance is, how do you then craft a property listing in a way that, number one, the guest is looking on the Google of temporary housing, which is Airbnb. That's the Google of temporary housing, as we know, like it or not. That's where the end user looks. Like your cousin, they're going to look, oh, I need an Airbnb. Like it's a noun, it's a verb, it's all the things, right?
So could I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
We have this property we listed on Airbnb, or we're about to. How do I know what the appropriate range is for pricing a midterm rental without, let's say I want this bougie place that I want to, but I'm trying to figure out what is like the max, the minimum amount I need to spend to make it look as bougie as possible with the best return, I guess. I don't know if that's like the right question, but like kind of like playing with those like levers with like knowing how much to spend to make it nice, maximizing on the rents. And how do I figure that out?
Yeah, I love that. So it doesn't have to be expensive to be bougie, which is great, right? We can definitely leverage it. We're not talking about golden doorknobs or golden toilets. It's really thinking about what they need. If you know that your avatar has children, right? Are you going to set up cute spaces that speak to them? Is there going to be a design that has durability to it, that looks high end, decluttered? Less is more, honestly, when it comes to the luxury traveler. So it doesn't have to be expensive to be bougie, which is the good news. So when it comes to knowing that pricing, it is a percentage of the property's rebuild value. So for example, if your property, you purchase a house for $500,000, right? And land is not depreciable, so they wouldn't have to rebuild the land. They would have to rebuild the structure of the house. So say the value of the structure is about $400,000. Okay. 25% of the rebuild is about the average of the temporary housing allowance
Wow.
that you would see. So it's either 20 to 30%. I call it my rule of 25, which is what I teach. So that'll be the ceiling. So that's $100,000 worth of booking revenue that's available to you as a host in that particular market. And so that's why we like to stay in the markets that aren't, the most depressed markets. We like that $400,000 market, because we know that's what the property value and the rebuild value is going to be.
I see. Wow, man, that is smart. The science behind it, because honestly, like you got my mind over here, like, darn, I didn't like. Honestly, you maybe because you said it in such a very plain Jane, easy way of understanding it. I never would have been able to articulate that to somebody else. They would be like, what, stick to what you do, and I just invest with you. That's it, right? But the way you said it, it's really interesting. On like, now I understand what to target, where to target, and why to target. So I guess, okay, now that you have this formula on understanding kind of like the revenue side, I guess, is there a formula, or is there anything you look at to sit there and say, well, it's a demand here? Like, because you can go anywhere where you could do that. You say, okay, cool, these houses are averaging XYZ, blah, 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 25%, boom, bada, bang. But does that mean that there's a demand for midterm rentals there? Like, how you factor that in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I don't think I've seen anyone publish anything out there that's like clearly defined, but I have built my own buy box based on what I have seen work for me and the other 265 members of our community who have properties nationwide in the US. Okay. So before I tell you where it works, let me tell you where it doesn't work. And I think that'll help with the process of elimination. So there are two markets that I say absolutely not. Do not go in that market expecting to make this work very well. Number one, if the market is an extremely seasonal market, say like in Cape May, where all of the homes, and let's think about it logically, if all of the homes are second homes or third homes, of the ultra wealthy, well, if that house is destroyed, they have their primary home. They don't need a place to stay. So it's not going to work in those markets where we have primarily non-owner occupied homes, like secondary homes, right? Or tertiary homes. It's not going to work. Okay. And I have members in our community who have properties there who have asked about it, and we've done the research and no, it's not going to work there. Number two, markets that are extremely rural, meaning, you've got hundreds of acres of land. You may get one in 10 years, but everyone is on 100 acres. There's not a density enough. There's not a population to serve. There's not a lot of people to serve there. So the likelihood that you're going to stay booked, like we do, we had 9 days of vacancy in the last 12 months across six properties.
Dang.
Right? That's not going to be you if you're in an extremely rural town. So those are the two markets where I say it doesn't work. But if we want to drill down a little bit more into it, I'm looking for markets where there is a high percentage of owner-occupied homeowners, and that data is available with the census. And we use that. We look at that. I like to understand the entire client journey of the temporary housing agent. So the first place they will put a guest is in a hotel, and then they'll place them in an apartment for the most part. Well, All of our properties are 4+ bedrooms because I don't want to compete with a REIT or an apartment that has 7,002 bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like 7,001. So how do I, right? You know what I mean? They already have an
Totally.
arrangement with them,
Yep.
but I know they don't have a big, portfolio of 4 bedrooms that they can tap into. So ours are 4 to 8 bedrooms. And that's what I teach my community, stick to 4 bedrooms plus. I know, it's a little scary, but it almost takes about the same amount of work to manage a 4 bedroom than that it does with a 2 bedroom. The communication is, demand is about the same. So those are some of the strategies that we use to make sure that we're getting those bookings.
So I had a question on furnishing, because I know we
Yeah.
kind of talked about the avatar a little bit,
Mhm.
and I've heard mixed things about furnishing midterm rentals versus furnishing like a short term rental, and sometimes what you do for the you don't necessarily have to you know go all out to the same degree on a midterm rental as maybe a short term rental if you're trying to like amenities and things like that. Like, what's your thoughts on that? As far as I know it's probably market specific and property specific, but like generally speaking, like what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. So when it comes to midterm rental design, and short-term rental design, the two glaring examples that I can think of is if you look at the Disney properties and you see all of that like overly stimulated lights and colors and razzmatazz and the
Yeah.
walls, and it's like, yeah, we're going to Disney. That's an energy, right? That's the energy. You want the kids, you want everyone all in.
Yep.
That is not a vibe for midterm rentals. It's
Mm.
quiet and it's soothing. And so the colors matter. If you feel as though you want to be a hybrid and have just one feature wall for your midterm rental, you can do just one feature wall for your midterm rental. For a short-term rental, you might want the loudest possible feature wall, multiple feature, the neon lights, and so as far as furnishings, I'm always going to lean into, you want quality comfortable furnishings, you want contractor grade but quality comfortable furnishings. And here's the deal: contractor grade is going to last a long time, but comfort is important too. Not all contractor grade is comfortable. It's going to last, but it's sure not comfortable. It's like,
Say it again.
right? It's like hospital. I'm sitting here at this medical doctor. That's contractor grade because it's commercial grade. That's a commercial property. You're running a business, so you want commercial, but comfort is important as well. The other
Mhm.
thing that I think is important too, Amid, is in the kitchen. You want the cooking tools. You can probably skate with subpar cooking tools for a short term rental because they're there to go and eat out at the restaurants, but for a midterm rental, they're actually cooking there. You know
Mm.
what I mean? They are actually cooking there. You
Yeah.
want the knives to be quality, and you want the cutlery to be good. You want to make sure you have enough dishes. You want to make sure that you're addressing those things. You want the pots and pans to be, pretty decent quality. So that's the difference as well, because they're going to live there. From I'm going to say it quickly, from a linen perspective.
Here we go.
Here we go. We're back. From a linen perspective, we don't necessarily have to give all of our good white Brooklinen sheets. We can give, like the other color sheets that are not, the most expensive or high end with the midterm rentals, because they're going to use them and they're going to really use them. And also they live locally. They may have their own linens that they're shopping for as they're replenishing and getting ready to move back into their home in the next several months. So those are the big differences in furnishings. And when it comes to purchasing that asset, what the number one reason that we can demand the prices that we're demanding is because we're one of the only pet friendly options in the area, and we
Interesting.
work on making sure that as much as possible we're accessible. Meaning, I'm always looking for a property with a bedroom on the main level, because when granny needs to come as well and you have that one child with a disability, no one understands the struggle that family has, and they're not able to accommodate that. But that's where I come from, healthcare. I understand that. I'm like, you know what, I'm the only one that's offering this, And so the insurance could just keep shopping around. They say, okay, we'll shop around because your prices are at a premium. But then they come back and say, yeah, you're the only one willing to offer all of this. And that's how we stand out from the crowd.
Wow, you lock them in. It's pretty interesting because you say a couple of things. One, you say, hey, we look for 4 to 8 bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
And then you tag the word in front of it, luxury. So when I hear those things, I'm talking about more escalante, and we use a word for, you say, the bougie people, right? So and when they bougie, they don't stay at certain hotels, they don't do this, they don't do, their dog won't even stay at, their dog won't go walk the Walmart floor, you know what I mean? I find it very interesting with the great success that you're having, where you're saying you can still have somewhat of a balance with your midterm rentals, at the luxury midterm rentals, I may add, dealing with the target market, that you're dealing with, but I'm gonna tell you something, and you have to promise us, but we have to have like a number 2 to this, because there's like a whole slew of additional questions I have here that I did not get a chance to ask. We didn't even talk about the tea house, which I'm really upset about that. And I need to hear an update, because I haven't got my update from you. I've been looking for texts. Where's the tea house text? No curtain, no cup, no nothing. Like, you can start buying little things and put them away, and when you're ready, boom, you just break them out. But let me ask you this question. What does find your freedom mean to you?
Ooh, finding my freedom means having the choice to work when I want to work, where I want to work, how I want to work, on my own time, on my own dime, and making an impact to those that I love and care about.
That's beautiful. No, I think that's very eloquently said. So people want to connect with you. I'm sure they do. They're going to try to look you up online. They want to find you on social. What are the best ways to connect with you?
Yeah, so my brand is Short Term Gems, but I have a free resource, 75gems.com. If they type in 75gems.com, they'll have access to the top cities that we're looking to invest in short-term and midterm rentals. And hey, grab that.
Awesome. We love it. So what we like to do at the end of the show is we like to sit here and do this big boom session, right? So the key here is really to bust some speakers if we can. All right. So what we're going to do is, here you go, take that deep breath, get it full with air in those lungs. What we're going to do is, I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and all 3 of us in a uniform manner is going to say boom as long as we can. All right. If I can get some thumbs up from you guys and ladies, let me know. All right, listeners, for those who's not watching, I'm getting the sign. All right, on 3. Dr. Rachel just took her glasses off. I'm telling you better turn your speakers down. All right, on 3. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Check this out, man. We just had episode with Dr. Rachel, and it was fantastic. The things that she spoke about and the gems that she brought is just something that you never heard of. So I'm telling you right now, she left her contact information. She's an individual that you want to get in contact with. She has a thriving coaching program. That's something you want to look into, because she teach. I'm telling you, you see and you hear how elegantly she mentioned just the things that she's doing. She has a strategy that works. And I'm telling you, if you join the program, you will sit here and figure it on out. However, we also need you to listen to this episode and leave us an honest 5-star review, because this is how we, again, bring on super awesome guests, friends to find your freedom, like Dr. Rachel. And we also need you to subscribe. We need you to share this with all your friends, all your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle. Share it with your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. And until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.